I took out a loan to build the only pumping station in the village. I only charged basic electricity fees for 8 years, just to keep the villagers' orchards from dying in the dry season. But in the end, the greedy uncle and the agricultural company reported me, accusing me of stealing electricity and wasting water, forcing me to hand over the management rights. I just signed a liability exemption agreement and removed the core motor that belonged to me, then went to the suburbs to start a fully automated ecological farm. In the year of severe drought, the villagers looked at the sky-high smart water bills and dead fruit trees all over the mountain, pressed my shameless uncle face down into the mud. Earlier, I had just finished cleaning the filter of the pump. Uncle Chin Mangang brought my cousin and several strange men with briefcases into the pump house. The moment my uncle stepped in, his brows furrowed tightly into a knot. "What's this junk machine? Making such a racket?" "Chin Yan, how many years have you used this pump? Its efficiency is terrible. The water flow is as thin as a little kid peeing. Are you deliberately holding back water from everyone?" Aunt Wang just came over with empty buckets to line up. After hearing this, she immediately put down her carrying pole. "Our village is on high ground. It's already hard enough for this pump to push water up here. For 8 years, I only charged everyone the most basic electricity fees. Be patient, I'll open the sluice to release water right now." "Cut the crap. You say you only charge electricity fees. Then why did my family pay 60 yuan last month? Do you dare say you didn't tamper with the fees? Or secretly sell water to the neighboring village? Your orchard is at the highest point of the hilltop. It already uses a lot of electricity to pump water that high. All the account books are posted on the wall. Can't you look at them yourself? I can't understand your fake accounts. I just know you've pocketed the villagers' money. Listen up, everyone. This is Manager Wang from Levuan Agriculture in the city," he said. "As long as we hand over this junk pump to his company for unified management, they will immediately replace it with smart irrigation for free for everyone." The elderly villagers carrying water around heard the noise, and all gathered around. Manager Wang cleared his throat. "Dear fellow villagers, modern agriculture focuses on precise drip irrigation. This outdated set of equipment of yours should have been eliminated long ago. Leave it to us. We'll replace everything for free. You can water the orchards with your phone at home." Aunt Wang, who was smiling at me just now, when she heard the words free replacement, dodged her eyes for a moment. Other villagers also started whispering, "Free upgrade. That's so great." "Yeah, Chin Yan, this pump is really too old. Sometimes it even stops working during power cuts. Manchang has seen the world outside. He must be doing this for the good of our whole village. He can't possibly cheat us." I looked at those familiar faces, the villagers whose orchards I saved by rushing to repair, the lines in heavy rain at midnight. I watched their expressions change from hesitation to expectation, and even in their eyes looking at me, there was a trace of wariness and disgust. My hand holding the wrench slowly went cold. Before dawn the next day, I hadn't gotten up yet. The village loudspeakers started blaring. Uncle Chin Mankang was on the broadcast, seriously calling all villagers to the brigade office for a meeting. The topic was removing Chin Yan and welcoming modernization. When I arrived at the brigade office, the yard was already packed with people. My uncle was standing on the steps, holding a stack of printed documents in his hand. "Fellow villagers, water is the lifeline of our village. We can't let Chin Yan hold it alone and suck us dry." The village chief also walked over with his hands behind his back. "Yan, well, you see what everyone wants. We're promoting agricultural modernization now. You have to consider the overall situation on this matter." "Cough, cough!" And your uncle said, "If you don't hand over the key, Lilview and company won't dare to come in. They're afraid you'll make trouble." Village chief, for 8 years when the equipment broke, I paid for the parts out of my own pocket. When the water pipe leaked, I jumped into the icy water to fix it in the middle of winter. I never took a cent of subsidy from the village. And now you're kicking me out. So, times have changed. They have the technology of a big company. What's the point of you messing around alone? It'll be fine. Don't be so stubborn. I looked at the hundreds of people in the yard. Not a single person stood up to speak for me. Even Aunt Wang, who was praising me for working hard, to fix the pump yesterday turned her head away. I was completely disappointed with this place. I pulled out of my pocket the voluntary liability exemption and asset division agreement that I had written overnight the night before and slammed it on the village chief's desk. Fine, I'll hand over the keys. Since all of you think I embezzled money, and the company is such a great catch, just sign and press your thumbprints on this paper. Starting from today, the village water supply has nothing to do with me, Chinyan, ever again. Whether it's drought or flood later, or the water price goes up or down, you all are on your own. Wait, what's this all about? Fine, we'll sign, don't think without you. The whole village will die of thirst. He took the lead to press his red thumbprint. Then my cousin, Aunt Wang. The whole village lined up in a queue, afraid that being even a second late would delay their free smart upgrade. Everyone signed their names in a big hurry. Looking at the pages covered with red thumbprints, the heavy stone weighing on my heart suddenly shattered, and I felt completely relaxed all at once. I put the agreements away properly, turned around and walked towards the pump house. Uncle and a crowd of villagers followed me like I was a thief. I opened the door of the pump house, grabbed a wrench and walked straight to the deepest part of the machine room. Under everyone's stunned gazes, I grabbed the high-voltage pulse generator set connected to the main pump and unmounted it directly. It was the only core component that allowed this old pump to send water up to the back hill. I spent a huge sum of money back then and asked contacts to buy it as my personal property, but they always treated it as a broken old motor. My cousin panicked instantly and yelled loudly, "Attention, everyone. Chinyan is trying to sabotage things. Stop him, everyone. Don't let him run off with the village collective property." Several villagers immediately stepped forward to block the door. I let out a cold sneer, pulled out the purchase receipt for the equipment, and the just-signed liability exemption agreement from my bag. Open your eyes wide and look carefully. I bought this motor with my own money, 80,000 yen in total. The name on the invoice is clearly written. The agreement we just signed also clearly states that I can take my personal assets away. The workshop and pipes you want are all intact. I haven't touched even a single screw of them. The whole crowd went dead silent immediately. Uncle's face turned blue with anger, but looking at the written proof in black and white, he couldn't say a single word at all. When I unmounted that grease-covered old motor from the base of the pump house, I was already sweating all over. Although the outer surface of this motor had severe chipped paint from bumps, anyone who knows this stuff knows. This is an early industrial-grade high-power motor with pure copper coils inside, back then to push water from the gully up to the highest orchard in the whole village. I visited second-hand equipment markets in 3 cities and spent a full 80,000 yen to bring it back. Over the past 8 years, no matter how unstable the voltage was, no matter how long the pumping lasted, this old buddy never let me down once. The motor weighs over 200 yen. I couldn't carry it alone, so I used a wooden board to slide it into the pickup truck compartment. The rough hemp rope dug into my palm. Sweat flowed into my eyes, stinging badly. I looked up towards the door subconsciously. There were no less than a few dozen fellow villagers gathered in the empty lot outside the pump house. Aunt Wang, Uncle Wang, and those familiar faces I once helped fix irrigation pipes for in the middle of rainy nights were all standing under the shade of that big old locust tree. Not a single one stepped forward to help me. They didn't even say a polite word of retention. All of them were covering their noses, as if they were afraid of getting the motor oil smell on themselves. Their eyes showed undisguised disgust and wariness. Just then my cousin Chinlei held up his phone, filming me nonstop. Hey Qingyan, take it slow when you move that. Don't hurt your waist over that scrap metal. Look, everyone. This is the former water tyrant of our village. He tricked us for 8 years with this broken industrial motor. It's full of stinky motor oil inside. How can our fruit trees grow well drinking water from this thing? No wonder our village's fruit hasn't been selling for good prices these years. This is the root of all the problems. That's right, Mankang is right. There must be heavy metal in that water. We should have replaced it long ago. I've always hated how loud that broken motor is. It's so noisy I can't even sleep at noon. Hurry up and make him take it away. It's an eyesore just looking at it. Uncle Chin Mankang stood with his hands behind his back, like a general who just won a big battle, and walked out from the crowd. He specially wore a brand new shirt today. His pockets were bulging, and you could vaguely see the outline of a few packs of Manhwa cigarettes. That was the promotion hard work fee the staff from Ulvyuan Agricultural Company just slipped to him. All right, lazy, stop filming. Tell him to hurry up, pack, and get lost. Qin Yan, it's not that your uncle is criticizing you. Qin Yan, it's not that I'm being harsh on you as your uncle. You're just way too stubborn and can't keep up with the times. Ulvyuan Agricultural Kosir Lottery is going to bring high-end smart equipment from the city here tomorrow. Its pump body is made entirely of stainless steel, with multi-layer deep filtration functions. The water we'll get later is not only cleaner than the crummy water pumped out by your junk machine, it's more nutritious too. It's a big company that runs all operations centrally. Even the water bill is cheaper than your so-called cost price by half. Folks, from now on, the water we use in our village will meet the same purified water standard as city people drink. None of you have to stay up late at night to watch the switches anymore. You just tap your phone, and the fields get watered automatically. You know what this is? This is the agricultural Internet of Things. Our village is going to get rich really soon. Hearing the uncle say all these great things, all the villagers were grinning from ear to ear. It looked like they could already see gold ingots hanging all over the fruit trees in autumn. One impatient young guy spat right in front of my pickup truck's tires. He yelled at me to leave quickly and not block the big company's construction trucks from entering the village. I wiped the rust off my hands and looked at this bunch of people who thought they were so smart. My heart went completely cold. The signed agreement is kept at the village committee in black and white. Whether you get rich later or not has nothing to do with me, Qin Yan. I threw out these words coldly, pulled open the car door, and slammed the gas pedal to the floor, leaving the uncle and the villagers mocking laughter far behind me. After I left that poor mountain valley, I drove straight to the suburbs. I knew this old industrial-grade electric motor I had looked like scrap metal to other people. But in the hands of someone who really understands agriculture, it's a life-saving piece of equipment. I drove around the suburbs for 3 whole days and finally set my eyes on a large stretch of wasteland. It was over 100 acres in total. The rent for this land was unbelievably cheap. For one single reason, drought. The groundwater level here is extremely deep. Regular civilian agricultural pumps can't draw any water at all. Even if they can draw some water, the flow is pathetically small, nowhere near enough to water 100 acres of land. All previous people who leased this land couldn't fix the water problem and lost every penny they invested, and left with their tails between their legs in the end. But I didn't care. The first thing I did after leasing the land was pay a drilling team to dig a deep well. Then I put that oil-stained old pure copper electric motor firmly installed on the base. The second I flipped the power switch, the motor let out a low, powerful rumble, like a wild beast that just woke up. Then a water column as thick as an adult's arm burst, shooting up violently from dozens of meters underground. With sufficient water supply, everything else was easy. With the 8 years of agricultural experience I've accumulated, plus high-power irrigation, I planted high-value commercial, organic cherries and sunshine rose grapes on this cheap red land. My life was like it was on fast forward, moving steadily towards a big harvest day by day. Meanwhile, back in the village, they were caught up in the false excitement of modernization. Ulvyuan Company brought a very nice-looking new water pump. It was covered in a shiny stainless steel casing, stuck full of all kinds of colorful smart IoT labels. It also came with a large LCD touchscreen. It really looked way fancier than my old electric motor, at least 100 times fancier. As the person who brought in the investment, the uncle suddenly became the most popular person in the village. To keep this local big shot happy, Ulvyuan Company not only gave him a pretty big kickback, also contracted him the small civil work of laying pipes in the village. The uncle's family was super prestigious back then. He wandered around the village every day with a small bag under his arm, looking just like a big construction contractor. With the money he got from selling out the whole village's lifeline, he bought a ton of red bricks and cement and started at the most prominent spot in the village center to build himself a 3-story small villa with a large terrace. The villagers carried their hoes and looked excitedly at the newly laid thin black plastic pipes in the fields. When you squeezed those pipes with your hand, they were soft and squishy. The pipe walls were as thin as paper. But according to the uncle, they were aerospace-grade polymer materials, Everyone was dreaming of getting rich, thinking they didn't have to worry about anything, and could use the same high-quality water that's cheap and clean as what city folks use. But they had no idea at all. All the things in life that look free have already had a high price tag attached to them secretly. The beautiful dream was shattered. Starting from the day they paid the first month's water bill, the end of May is the critical period for fruit trees to bloom and bear fruit, and water demand keeps increasing. The toll collector from Levuan Company moved a table and sat casually in the yard of the brigade headquarters. Next to him stood a sign with a QR code on it. Attention, all villagers. Please come to the brigade office as soon as possible to pay this month's water bill and activate your smart IC cards to avoid disrupting your normal irrigation. Aunt Wang was one of the first people to go. She clutched a few crumpled small bills in her hand, with that happy grin of someone who just got a good deal. Young man, my plots are halfway up the hillside. Only 2 mu in total. Back when Qinyan was in charge, even at the maximum, I only paid about 12 to 13 yuan for electricity every month. Your brother Mankang said, this advanced water is half the price of before. I'm paying 10 yuan first today. That's enough for this month, right? The fee collector was a young man with dyed yellow hair. He didn't even look up, chewing gum in his mouth. He took Aunt Wang's card and swiped it on the machine with a beep. Then he tapped the keyboard a few times, and the machine spat out a bill over a meter long. Wang Chunyan, right? Your family's bill for this month is out. The total is 248 yuan. Scan the code or pay cash. If you don't pay it off in full, your card will be cut off and have no water tomorrow. Aunt Wang's smile froze instantly on her face. The small bills in her hand almost fell to the ground. She thought she misheard. Her legs went weak, and she almost lost her balance. How much? Over 240. Kid, did you read the decimal point wrong? This is straight up robbery. I only have 2 mu of land total. How can one irrigation cost hundreds of yuan? Aunt Wang yelled at the top of her lungs. All the villagers waiting in line were stunned. The yellow-haired guy rolled his eyes hard. He tapped his pen tip impatiently on the small, Bill's dense list of charging details. Auntie, even if you can't read, you gotta be reasonable, right? It's all printed clearly in black and white. Look at the first item. The base water fee is really cheap indeed. Only 1 yuan per ton. Way cheaper than whatever that guy Qinyan used to charge, right? But this is a modern smart pipe network we use. You can't just count the cost of the water itself. Second item, smart platform network service fee, 30 yuan per month. Third item, PE pipe depreciation and routine maintenance fee, 80 yuan per month. Fourth item, since your village is on the mountain, this is the stepped pressurization electricity share, 60 yuan. Then there's the smart water meter rental fee and trace element addition fee. Add all these miscellaneous fees up and you get this total. This is even after our company's farmer benefit subsidy. You think it's too expensive? If it's too expensive, why did you stamp your thumbprint and sign? If it's too expensive, don't swipe your card to open the sluice. Piss off, the taps are on your own land. Who forced you to use this service? Those words from the yellow-haired guy were like a loud slap that hit every villager hard across the face. The news spread like wildfire, all across the entire village. Everyone was dumbfounded. Back when I was in charge, I bought the motors myself. I fixed the pipes myself. I only charged them according to the national grid standard, for the electricity used purely for pumping water. I never charged a single cent in extra fees. Now that Luoyuan Company came in, they're using that classic trick capitalists are best at, splitting fees and adding hidden surcharges. They added all sorts of random made-up service fees. In the end, the irrigation cost for the same 1 mu of land has increased by dozens of times, if not more. The whole village erupted in anger. All the villagers were furious. Those rural women who usually would argue for ages, at the market over a few cents for vegetables, were hurting so bad it felt like their hearts were bleeding. Hundreds of people swarmed noisily to the village center and surrounded Uncle Qin Mankang's still under construction, Western-style villa in layers upon layers. Qin Manchang, you damn crook! Get out here and explain yourself. Didn't you say it would be half the price? Now irrigation costs more than what we spend on rice. Did you team up with that company to scam our money? Uncle Chin Man Kang was on the second floor checking out his big terrace at that moment. When he saw the angry crowd below, he quickly straightened his clothes, put on a stern act, and walked out. He was actually panicking inside because he just found out about the company's fee tricks too. But he took 50,000 yuan in kickbacks from them, so he had to force himself to keep lying. What's all the noise about? Why are you all so short-sighted? This is a big company from the provincial government. Those stainless steel water pumps, those pipes in the fields. They invested so much money up front. Don't they need to recover their costs? Why are you only fixated on this small water fee right in front of you? You need to look at the bigger picture. They added nutrient solution to the water. It's been filtered with high technology. This is what we call an investment. Spending a few hundred more on water bills now. When the fruits grow big and shiny in autumn, we'll sell them to big supermarkets in the city and make 3 to 5 yuan more per caddy. That tiny water bill is nothing. We'd have earned back several or even 10 times that cost long ago. If you grudge this little bit of money and refuse to water the trees, the fruits will end up as small as walnuts. That's just you being short-sighted. The villagers were fooled by this half-true, half-fake story from the uncle, though their hearts ached badly when they saw the pipes already laid in the fields and thought about the contracts they had already signed. They realized they had no way out at all. After all, I already hauled away the old water pump, and Levuan Company sealed the wellhead. There was no other choice. Everyone could only swallow their anger in silence. To save money, the villagers started pinching pennies to get by. Water that should have soaked the soil thoroughly. Now they only dared to run for 10 minutes. They pulled the card right away once the topsoil was slightly wet. They used to water once every 10 days. Now they dragged it out to half a month or even 20 days. Fruit trees don't lie. Without enough water supply, the leaves that should have been fresh and lush started turning yellow and dry at the edges. The tiny fruits on the branches grew to the size of coins, then stopped growing entirely. The whole village was shrouded in a depressing and anxious atmosphere. They could only silently pray for more heavy rains this year to save that sky-high life-or-death water bill, but they had no idea. Heaven doesn't show any mercy. A once-in-a-century drought that could ruin the whole village was quietly approaching. Mid-July, the once-in-a-century summer drought hit. For 45 whole days, not a single drop of rain fell from the sky. The small creek in the village that people used to wash clothes in had dried up to nothing but cracked riverbed half a month earlier. Even loaches had turned into dried mummies. At this time in previous years, it's the critical fruit-setting period for fruit trees. They can't go a single day without water. But this year, because of Levuan Company's vampire-like tiered pricing system, none of the villagers dared to water as much as they needed. The first to suffer was Aunt Wang, who planted trees on the hillside. Her 2 acres of apple trees that the whole family relies on for survival had leaves that started turning yellow and curling at the edges. Give them a light squeeze, and they crumble right into powder. The green fruits on the branches that should have been the size of walnuts are now so shriveled that they look like old bark wrapped around a fruit pit. They fall off in showers at the slightest touch. Aunt Wang plopped down on the scorching edge of the field, slapping her thighs and wailing loudly. It's over. It's all over, Heaven. Are you trying to force us to death? This is the money for my husband's dialysis in the second half of the year, and my grandson's tuition for junior high in town this autumn. To buy fertilizer, I still owe the credit union a 20,000 yuan loan. If we don't water them soon, and these trees die of drought, my whole family will have no choice but to hang ourselves. Aunt Wang's cries were like a signal that completely shattered the villagers' psychological defense. No one knows who shouted at the village entrance. Screw all that. Even if we go broke paying the water bills, we have to save the trees first. Hundreds of families went crazy, all rushing to their own orchards. Their eyes were red. They recklessly took out the smart IC card that was once seen as a symbol of high technology, tapping it on the card reader with trembling hands. The beep of card swipes kept ringing across all the dry hilltops. Hundreds of valves were twisted to maximum by the anxious villagers. Everyone was staring eagerly at the thin black PE plastic pipe in the field, waiting for that expensive life-giving water to flow out. But only a few dull, Gurgles of air came from the pipe. Then the valve barely spat out 2 streams of muddy yellow water mixed with sand. Then it went completely silent. Not a single drop of water could squeeze out. Hey. Huh. What's going on? Where's the water? I just put 800 yuan on my card. Why is there no pressure in my pipe at all? Not even any air coming out. The villagers were as anxious as ants on a hot pan. They dropped their hose and ran to the main pump house down the hill. Before they even got close, everyone smelled an extremely pungent burning smell. That's the disgusting stench of completely melted wire insulation. Inside the beautiful newly built pump house, Lvyuan Company's water pump with a shiny, bright aluminum alloy casing was making an extremely dull humming sound. The whole body was so hot you could feel the heat wave when you got close. Back when I was in charge, that old industrial-grade motor with pure copper coils had plenty of power and high torque. Even if all hundreds of acres of village farmland turn on water valves at the same time, it can still steadily push deep underground water all the way up to the top of the hill. But Lvyuan Company wanted to cut costs and squeeze out extra profits. The so-called high-tech water pump they supplied is basically a shoddy assembled product with grossly overstated power ratings. When just over 10 households use drip irrigation in turns normally, it can just barely handle the load. Now that hundreds of village valves are open all at once, the pressure in the pipe network plummets immediately. This shoddy pump is immediately put into an extremely overloaded pumping state. Cut the main power switch right now. Cut the power supply. Cut the power supply. It's gonna explode. But it was already too late. A deep and violent explosion rang out from inside the pump room. Then a string of dazzling blue electric sparks exploded in the billowing black smoke. The fancy pump that Uncle Chin Mankang had hyped to the sky was completely blown apart. The hope of hundreds of village households was also blown to smithereens right along with it. Early the next morning, Lvyuan Company's regional lead, Manager Wang, drove a brand new black Magotan set down slowly into the village. He only casually prodded with the tip of his shiny leather shoe the pile of pump remains that had burned into scrap iron. Uncle Chin Mankang hurried up to greet him like he was his own father. Manager Wang, thank goodness you're finally here. This pump suddenly exploded yesterday. We can't pump a single drop of water anymore. Look how bad the drought is right now. The fruit trees really can't hold on any longer. Please ask the company to send a construction team right away, with a new pump to replace this one, okay? Replace the pump, Chin Mankang? Are you out of your mind? Go read the instruction manual yourselves. When we processed your usage cards, we warned you again and again that this precision equipment must never be operated under overload all at once. This is a severe operating violation. It counts as intentional man-made damage. This smart IoT device worth over 100,000 yuan was ruined by you bunch of hicks just like that. And now you want the company to replace it for free. Do you think this is a charity? When the villagers heard this, they all blew up immediately. What do you mean we broke it? Everyone needs to water their crops in this drought. That beat-up old pump Chinya used before never broke even when hundreds of households pumped at the same time. Your pump is obviously a fake, low-quality, cheap knockoff. Exactly. We paid so much in maintenance fees. Now that the watering equipment is broken, why won't you fix it? Shut up. You want to go by the contract, huh? Fine, then we'll go strictly by the contract. You broke the equipment by operating it improperly, humph. Want to get the water back on? Sure, first. The whole village must pool money per household for the pump's depreciation, compensation, plus purchase and installation fees for the new pump. That adds up to 300,000 yuan. Second. To stop you from messing around and causing damage again, and costing the company money, you have to prepay the estimated water fees for the second half of the year. Pipe network maintenance fees and online platform service fees, which add up to 200,000 yuan, all must be prepaid to the company account in one lump sum up front. That's 500,000 yuan in total. Make a corporate transfer. We'll replace the pump as soon as the payment clears. If you're even a penny short, you can just wait and see. All the fruit trees on the mountain will turn into firewood for you to burn. 500,000 yuan. This astronomical figure felt like an invisible giant mountain, pressing down heavily on every villager's chest, throwing the whole scene into dead silence instantly. The exorbitant water fees from the past few months had already drained their already meager savings dry. They still owe the shop money for the pesticides and fertilizer they already bought. Forget 500,000 yuan, even 50,000 yuan is impossible for them to scrape together even if they sell all their belongings. Manager Wang, this isn't fixing a pump. You're practically killing us. When we signed the contract at the start, this wasn't what we agreed on. Brother Man Kang guaranteed us that your big company provides after-sales service and covers all repairs if the equipment breaks. Several villagers turned to look at Qin Man Kang. Qin Man Kang was also panicking now. His orchard is the biggest in the village. He loses thousands of yuan for every day without water. He didn't care about losing face anymore and grabbed Manager Wang's sleeve. Manager Wang, old Wang, that's not what you said when we had dinner together earlier. You obviously bought this cheap pump to pocket the price difference, right? How can you blame all this on the villagers? Aren't you setting me up here? I'm setting you up. Manager Wang violently shook off Qin Man Kang's hand and pulled another original contract with bright red fingerprints on it out of his briefcase, smacked it right on Qin Man Kang's face. Everybody open your eyes wide and get a good look. This guy Qin Man Kang right here. Back then, just to get the company's 100,000 yuan promotion kickback, volunteered to be the joint liability guarantor and even signed this dual contract. Clause 7, paragraph 3 of the contract clearly states, if the village collective damages equipment due to illegal operation and cannot pay the compensation, Lu Yuan Company has the right to directly collect payment from guarantor Qin Mancheng. As soon as these words came out, hundreds of pairs of eyes that were filled with despair just now immediately fixed their gaze firmly on Qin Mankang. Qin Mankang's face turned as pale as a sheet, shaking like a leaf. Back then, he only cared about getting that 100,000 yuan cash kickback to build a fancy house. He didn't even read the specific terms of the contract and happily left his fingerprint on it. You're lying through your teeth. That was a promotion fee. I had no idea what joint liability guarantee even means. You had no idea. It's in black and white with your fingerprint on it, Qin Man Kang. Go tell that to the judge in court. I'm giving you 3 days to gather 500,000 yen. If I don't see the money in 3 days, the legal department's indictment and the court's seizure order will be delivered right to you, Qin Man Kang. Manager Wang left by car, leaving hundreds of furious villagers behind, who surrounded Qin Man Kang and his son tightly. Qin Man Kang was blocked by the whole village right outside his house and yelled at for a full day and night. Uncle Qin Man Kang's newly built 2-story red brick villa was smashed to rubble by the villagers. The villagers lit a bonfire outside the door and dropped the harshest threat. Qin Man Kang, if within 3 days you can't come up with the 500,000 yuan to fix the water pump and let the whole village's fruit trees die of drought, we'll burn this crappy building of yours to the ground first. Trapped cousin Chinlei hid on the 2nd floor, didn't even dare open the window. Dad, we can't wait around like this anymore. These farmers are actually going to beat us to death. Our village has no water, but Chinya has water, right? I heard from the people who deliver veggies to the city. The wasteland Chinya leased in Shijiao has been turned into some kind of ecological farm now. If we just give him a call, ask him to come back to help us out, we won't have to pay that 500,000 yuan, right? Yes, call Chinya. I'm his own biological uncle. Blood is thicker than water. He can't just watch his uncle be forced to death, right? Meanwhile, right now, all the way in the most luxurious downtown hotels, top-floor banquet hall, I was wearing a perfectly fitting custom suit, standing under the brightly lit crystal chandelier, the province's modern agriculture and supply chain integration development summit forum is being held here as a benchmark enterprise supported by the city. I just signed a contract with the nation's largest fresh produce supermarket chain worth a total of 3,000 yuan annual exclusive supply agreement. I held a glass of champagne in my hand, chatting with the supermarket group's CEO across from me. Right at that moment, my personal phone in my pocket started vibrating. Holding my wine glass, I turned and walked into the quiet VIP lounge outside the banquet hall and pressed the answer button. What's up? Something terrible happened in the village. Luyu and Company's water pump exploded. We've had no water for 2 days now. All the fruit trees in the village are gonna die. The villagers are blocking our door right now, Qin Yan. Hurry back with your old motor to save us. As long as you come back and pump the water up, we'll write off all the past grudges. We'll let you set the water price. Yeah, Xiaoye? Uncle knows he was wrong. I was blinded by greed back then. I was scammed by that evil company. You can't just leave us to die. I'm your own uncle. If you don't come back, these people will actually bury me alive. Qinmanchang Qinlei. Are you guys getting too old? That your memory is worse than a dog's. The day I left the village, in front of hundreds of villagers, that voluntary exemption and asset separation agreement, who was the one that led everyone to put their fingerprints on it? You called me corrupt back then. Said I made dirty money, just to get that 100,000 yuan kickback. You threw me out like trash without a second thought. Then turned around to suck up to that capital company. When I left, it was clearly written in black and white. From that day forward, the village's water supply has nothing to do with me, Qin Yan. Qin Yan, you can't be this heartless. The lives of hundreds of villagers, can you take responsibility for that? Stop using the villagers' lives to blackmail me. When they put their fingerprints on the agreement back then, not a single one of them hesitated. I hung up the phone without hesitation and added this new SIM card to the blacklist again. Then I pushed open the main door. The banquet hall was filled with thunderous applause. Those business celebrities were celebrating the successful cooperation, while dozens of kilometers away in those arid mountains, the villagers forcibly grabbed Qin Mankang and forced him to press his fingerprint. He was forced to mortgage his only remaining orchard under his name, and this smashed house as a whole, to all the villagers as compensation. Dad, I've got an idea. As long as we sneak to Chinya's farm at midnight, dismantle that old electric motor and bring it back to install. Early tomorrow morning, the whole village will have water. Who's gonna come after us to settle the score then? Maybe everyone will even thank us for saving the whole village's lives. This absurd reasoning of Qinlei actually made the desperate Qin Mankang see a sliver of ridiculous hope. He trembled and took out from his inner coat pocket the last few thousand yen he had and stuffed it into Qinlei's hand. Lazy, you sneak out when they're dozing off after midnight. Climb out through the back window. Go to the town and find a few bold guys. Get that motor back for me no matter what. At 2 a.m. that same day, Qinlei spent a lot of money to hire 2 idle good-for-nothings from the town, drove a van, and quietly snuck to the outskirts of the city where my Sky Eye ecological farm is located. In their imagination, the farm would at most have a circle of barbed wire around it and a thatched shed for guarding the melon field. As long as they cut through the barbed wire, lift the motor onto the van, no one would ever find out. But they had no idea at all that what they were facing was far from a traditional rural orchard, but a highly modernized, agricultural tech enterprise with assets over 10 million yuan. Qinlei held a large hydraulic shear in his hand and cut through the farm's outermost protective net with snip-snip sounds. Then he led the 2 good-for-nothings straight to the independent constant temperature pump room in the center of the farm. Hurry! That's the pure copper motor! I recognize its base. Unscrew the fixing screws and carry it away from me. But right when one of the good-for-nothings just put the wrench on the motor's bolt, 16 sets of high-intensity security searchlights above. The entire farm lit up all at once. The dazzling white light made it as bright as daytime. Qinlei and the others screamed directly from the strong light and quickly covered their eyes. Right after that, the highest-level security alarm cut through the quiet night sky of the suburbs. It was so loud that it hurt people's ears. Before Qinlei and the others recovered from the strong light, over a dozen professional security guards in black uniforms surrounded them tightly from all directions. Freeze. Chinlei was scared almost out of his wits. His legs went weak, and he knelt directly on the muddy grass. Just 15 minutes later, Chinlei was taken away by the police. Before he was taken away, I was wearing a silk loungewear set. Accompanied by my secretary and the head of security, walked out of the office building unhurriedly. When Chinlei saw me, he was like a drowning man grabbing the last lifeline and screamed hysterically like crazy. "Chinyan! Explain it to them quickly. I'm your older brother. I just came to check your equipment. I'm not stealing. We're family. Officer, I'm Chinya, the legal representative of Sky Eye Agricultural Technology Co. This is our company's legal counsel. He will fully represent the company to cooperate with your investigation." My legal director behind me immediately stepped forward and handed a thick hard drive and several documents with official seals to the police officer. "Hello, officer. This is the full-angle surveillance footage and the asset evaluation report of the equipment. The high-voltage pulse motor they tried to forcibly dismantle is not an ordinary agricultural tool, but a core power component independently developed and patented by our company. The book evaluation value of this system is 400,000 yen. These people damaged security facilities, carried professional criminal tools for forced dismantling, which already constitutes a typical gang-attempted burglary. Furthermore, the involved property belongs to the core assets of the enterprise. Once dismantled, it will cause our thousands of acres of crops to face the risk of water shortage and death. The potential economic loss is as high as millions of yuan. This is by no means an ordinary public security case, but a serious criminal offense with extremely vile circumstances. It has enormous negative impacts, and also intends to disrupt the production and operation of the enterprise. If you have any excuses, you can take your time to say them later. Get in." "Qingyan, you heartless jerk. You'll get your karma. You will get what you deserve." News that Chinlei was placed in criminal detention spread back to the village first thing the next morning. This news for Uncle Chin Mankang, who was already on the edge of a total breakdown, was like a bolt out of the blue to scrape up money for a lawyer to bail his son out, and more importantly, to fend off double debt demands from villagers and Lu Yuan Company. He had no choice but to forcibly pick all the unripe, low-quality defective apples that even birds wouldn't touch, growing all over the hillside. They filled 3 full large trucks. He tried to haul this garbage to the largest fresh produce wholesale market in the city to try his luck. In his limited, pitiful understanding, there are lots of people in the city. As long as he set the price low enough, there's bound to be some cheapskate small merchant willing to take them, but he had no idea times had long changed. He also had no clue that the largest core supplier of this market was me, the person he personally kicked out of the village. That morning, the Jiangnan Fresh Produce Market was bustling with noise and crowds. Chin Mankang stood dejected in the middle of the trading hall. He was humbly clinging to a suit-clad supermarket purchasing manager, refusing to let go. "Manager Liu, sir. Please have mercy and take these, won't you? These are all natural hillside-grown apples. Sure, this year because of the drought. They're a bit small in size, but the price is super cheap, I swear. I don't even sell them by the box. I sell them by the gin. 30 cents per gin. No, wait. 20 cents per gin. You can give me whatever you want. You can just take all the trucks away, no problem. Old man, did you come to the wrong place? You think this, the most high-end fresh produce market in the whole province, is a garbage dump. This defective garbage even pigs won't eat. You actually had the nerve to haul it here. If we put these on our supermarket chain's shelves, do you think our brand reputation will survive?" Passing nearby vendors and cold chain truck, drivers all stopped in their tracks, burst into laughter and started pointing at him. "Yeah, old man, are you that desperate for money? Can't you see what kind of goods the market accepts these days? Open your eyes wide and look. What standards the high-end market requires now." Chin Mankang raised his head following Manager Liu's pointing finger. A huge screen was playing on loop, a well-produced corporate promotional video. In the footage, a fully automated sprinkler system refracted rainbows in the sunlight. Integrated water and fertilizer pipelines precisely nourished every inch of the soil. Clusters of plump, round sunshine rose grapes glistened appetizingly under the HD camera, brimming with vitality. At the end of the promotional video, several gilded characters popped up sharply on the screen. Tianyan Agricultural Technology Group. Founder, Qin Yan. Qin Mankang jolted all over. His legs went weak. See that? The organic fruit sent by Tianyan Agriculture. That's the real hot commodity. They're all bought up at high prices by major malls before they're even picked. Your 3 trucks of garbage. Even if you pay for the shipping, no one will take them for free. Manager Liu waved his hand like he was swatting flies, turned around ready to leave. Just then, Manager Liu suddenly put on an extremely respectful and fawning smile and hurried towards the circle of transparent glass corridors above. The trading hall? That was the VIP negotiation room specially set up by the market management for top-tier major clients. Qin Mankang blankly looked in the direction. Manager Liu was running through the VIP negotiation room's huge, soundproof floor-to-ceiling glass window. He saw several suit-clad big shots sitting around a long mahogany table, and the person in the main seat was none other than me. Across the noisy, bustling crowd in the trading hall, Qin Mankang's eyes met mine. I didn't give him a victor's smile, nor did I yell at him angrily. I just glanced at him faintly with an extremely calm look in my eyes. That look was exactly like how you'd look at a tiny, insignificant speck of dust by the roadside. Qin Mankang's lips started trembling violently. He suddenly clutched his chest tightly with both hands, letting out an extremely shrill, desperate howl. Then his eyes rolled back, and he plopped down straight into his pile of rotten, sour-smelling apples. Qin Mankang suffered a stroke and became paralyzed. When Luyuan Company's legal team arrived, he was still lying in his shabby home. Manager Wang brought the collection team and court summons to block the village entrance again. They already dug up the pipeline network in the fields to pay off the debt, but that was far from enough to cover the so-called 500,000 yuan in breach of contract damages. This time, Manager Liu showed the greediest fangs of capitalism. He took out a thick stack of land transfer mortgage agreements and forced the whole village to sign. If you can't come up with cash, then use your orchard contracting rights to pay off the debt. Once you sign, these hundreds of acres of land will belong to our Luyuan Company from now on. Either you get out of the village, or stay and work for our company. As daily paid temporary workers, hundreds of villagers looked ashen with despair. The elders sat on the ground, wailing loudly, losing their land is the same as taking their lifeline away. Aunt Wang clutched her land deed tight, sobbing hysterically. We can't sign this, folks. If we sign, we'll really become homeless beggars. I won't sign. I'd rather give up my old life first. Folks, come with me to the city to beg Qin Yan for help. He's the only one in the whole world who can save us now. Faced with complete despair, dignity is worth nothing at all. Dozens of villager representatives scraped together their last bit of travel money and rented 2 beat-up open-top trucks. They bumped along for 3 hours in the biting autumn wind and arrived at the gate of my Tianyan Agricultural Technology Group on the city outskirts. Boss Qin, Qingyan, we're here to kowtow to you for help. When my secretary saw this scene on the security camera and ran to report it to me, I was sitting in the conference room reviewing the Provincial Agricultural Meteorological Report. I walked to the floor-to-ceiling window and looked down at the crowd outside the gate, all kneeling neatly on the asphalt road, their foreheads pressed against the cold ground. All their former greed had long been crushed to pieces by harsh real-life lessons. I put on my trench coat, brought the legal director and several security guards with me, pushed open the grand electric gate and walked out. When they saw me come out, the village chief stood up, with tears streaming down his old face. Xiao Yin. We know we were wrong. We were scammed by Qin Mankang and that crooked company until we lost everything. We can't even keep our land now. You are a generous person. Please save our village. We'll even work like slaves for you, as long as we can keep our land. Village chief, when you pressed red fingerprints to force me out back then, I remember I said, life, death, fortune, and misfortune, I'll follow your own fate. You were greedy for that fake small benefit and carelessly handed the whole village's lifeline to scammers. You didn't just trample my hard work to pieces. You also destroyed your own escape route. You should have swallowed this bitter result yourselves. But that land holds the graves of all my Qin family ancestors, and my father is buried there too. I can disown Qin Man Kang, but I can't watch the village that raised me get sucked dry by a bunch of capital scammers hiding behind the tech banner. Xiao Yin. You are willing to help us. I'm not doing charity. I'm a businessman, if you want my help. I make all the rules in the village from now on. Manager Zhang informed the motorcade. Bring all the evidence files and come back to the village with me. Today I want to see who dares to seize the land of my hometown. An hour later, 5 black business vans carried an irresistible sense of pressure and drove grandly into the village committee yard, directly blocking Manager Wang's debt collection. Motorcade completely inside. The car doors opened. I stepped out in a crisp, tailored suit, followed by 2 elite lawyers in formal suits. When Manager Wang saw me, he froze for a second first, then recognized me as the new tycoon in the provincial agricultural circle. His face changed color, but he still forced a calm look and walked over. Well, if it isn't President Qin of Tianyin Group, you're coming back home in glory, huh? But today is our Lu Yuan Company's legal debt collection day. Are you trying to interfere with normal judicial procedures? Debt collection. Manager Zhang. Read it out to him. According to the official appraisal from the Provincial Quality and Technical Supervision Bureau, the so-called smart IoT water pump your company sold to this village has an internal motor that is actually a refurbished, discarded industrial motor. Its nameplate power is overstated by 300%. And it has not obtained the national mandatory 3C safety certification. This is a completely counterfeit and shoddy product. Nonsense, we have a contract. Contract? I let out a cold sneer. Given that your company used counterfeit products for false advertising, signed dual contracts, and added illegal hidden fees, you are suspected of major commercial fraud. Our Tianyin Group has officially represented the whole village to report the case to the Economic Investigation Brigade of the Municipal Public Security Bureau. The legal director behind me added, "Let me add one more thing. My legal team will fight this lawsuit to the very end, until we strip every last layer of profit from your company. Make your legal representative go to jail. Now take your people with you. Get the hell out of my village." Manager Wang looked behind me, at the fully prepared legal team. Then he glanced at the villagers who had regained their backbone and clenched their fists again. He knew he'd messed with the wrong people this time. He didn't dare say a single extra word. He fled the village with his debt collection team in disgrace. The entire village committee yard erupted in thunderous sobs and cheers. Countless villagers bowed deeply in my direction. This time, the gratitude in their eyes was completely genuine. Driving away Lu Yuan Company only solved the village's urgent needs for the moment. To truly revive this land, we need a complete overhaul from scratch. The next day, the construction fleet of Tianyin Group drove into the village. They not only brought brand new, large-diameter irrigation pipelines that meet the highest standards, they also brought back the old pure copper motor that I took away years ago. But after being upgraded by my farm's technical team, it has now been equipped with a real variable frequency control system. With the deep, powerful rumble of the old motor, water gushed out again along the new pipelines. As it poured into the parched orchard, the whole village stood at the edge of the field, letting the water spray splash on their faces, crying like little kids. But this water isn't a free lunch anymore. The water is back, but the old rules have to change. Gone are the days when I paid for everything and did all the work, while you guys sat back and reaped all the benefits. They're gone forever. Starting today, Tianyin Group will take full control of the village's water conservancy facilities. Water fees will be charged at the lowest market cost. Not a cent more. Not a cent less. At the same time, as long as you're willing, you can all join my ecological supply chain. I'll provide free technical guidance and high-quality seedlings. There's only one requirement. You must strictly follow Tianyin's pollution-free planting standards. Using banned pesticides and fertilizers privately is strictly forbidden, as long as you can grow good quality produce. This fall, Tianyin Group will buy all of it at a price, 20% higher than the market rate. If anyone tries to cut corners or cheat, and ruins the village's reputation, they'll be kicked off the cooperation list immediately, and will never be allowed to work with us again. No handouts. Only cooperation. No coddling. Only rules. This is the true respect they deserve, and the most long-lasting salvation for them. The village chief's hands were shaking. He was the first to sign the cooperation agreement, solemnly writing down his name and pressing his red fingerprint on it. Xiao Yin. You saved the lives of our whole village. From now on, everyone in the village will follow wherever you lead. If anyone dares to be disloyal again, I'll break his legs myself. Hundreds of villagers lined up in a long queue. No pushing, no shoving, no complaining. Every single person's face was filled with awe, gratitude, and hope for a new life. That day, red fingerprints covered the entire agreement. It was the contract of a village's rebirth. 3 years later, the once-in-a-century severe drought was long gone. The once lifeless, poor mountain village that was almost sucked dry by capital has changed completely now. All the wastelands and dead trees across the mountains were cleared away and replaced by the standardized terraced orchards, planned uniformly by Tianyin Group. When spring comes, peach and pear blossoms all over the mountains are as gorgeous as rosy clouds. When fall comes, the top-quality fruits hanging all over the branches give off a rich, intoxicating sweet scent. Thanks to Tianyin Group's high-end cold chain logistics, the village's fruits are directly sent to high-end supermarkets in major cities across the country. The villagers' income is 5 times higher than it used to be. Young people who left to work in cities are coming back in droves. Every family has built a new house and bought a car. Laughter and happy chatter fill the village every day. At the entrance of the village, in front of the newly expanded, imposing modern water pump house, the villagers chipped in to put up a tall bluestone monument. There's no flattery or empty praise on it. Only 8 big characters are carved. When you drink water, remember its source. Build integrity, build conscience. This is the deep-seated repentance of a village, and the greatest respect they can give me. One evening in early autumn, I drove back to the village myself to inspect this year's fruit harvesting progress. Just as I drove into the village entrance, I was surrounded by warm, friendly villagers. Aunt Wang insisted on shoving a basket of freshly picked, biggest, reddest apples into my trunk. Her eyes were red as she held my hand. Try it, Mr. Chin. This year's fruits are so sweet. We wouldn't have such a great life today without you. I took the apple with a smile. I exchanged friendly greetings with the villagers, savoring this long-missed warmth of the hometown. But when I passed a spot at the end of the village, a dilapidated red brick ruin, I spotted a familiar figure. It was my uncle Chin Man Kung. He was sitting on a rusty old wheelchair. He was dirty all over, holding a chipped, worn-out bowl in his hand. His wife ran off. Qinlei is still serving time in prison, after he had a stroke and became paralyzed. He lives on the small monthly handout from the village, a tiny basic welfare stipend that just keeps him from starving. His mouth was twisted to one side, his clouded eyes staring fixedly at the joyous, bustling scene in front of him. Once, for the sake of 100,000 yuan, he tried to drag the whole village into the abyss. Now the entire village is under my leadership, moving toward common prosperity. Only he is forever shut out of all this prosperity and happiness. This is the cruelest yet fairest retribution for him. I didn't stop for a second. I hit the gas. The car drove smoothly past that ruin. Outside the window, the fruity scent from the hills drifted in with the evening breeze. Looking at this vibrant land, I felt unprecedented peace and fulfillment in my heart. A truly strong person doesn't trample evil people to death in the mud, but pulls themselves out of the mire, makes new rules, crushes lies with absolute strength, and reshapes the soul of a land with great foresight. This land full of rich fruits has finally embarked on its own smooth path forward. And I, in this heavy sense of social responsibility, I'm moving toward an even broader future.